Hi, just thought I'd do a quick video on the latest information that's come out about the selective test for next year. So basically every day now I'm going to the department site, probably go a couple of times a day, to make sure I don't miss an update, to see what's going on. And this was the latest information I saw yesterday. Test information, download the printable version of the 2021 test information for parents and students here when it is available, and the when it is available is becoming ubiquitous on the site. All right, because it's also down here at the bottom. Sample tests, sample questions will be provided here when they are available. So the cynical side of me, which many people would say is the only side, thinks they might not release this information until quite late in the day. And by that I mean, without allowing much time for students to use it to prepare for the test. You would have to think they'd release this test information reasonably soon, but the questions I'm not so sure about. Right, so the first thing that was slightly encouraging is that the format doesn't look like it's going to change too much. You have your writing test. Are they going to change the time for that? That seems possible. That's something maybe a lot of people haven't considered. They might think that the kids who are going to coaching colleges are rote learning and, to a 20-minute time limit, which is actually probably pretty true. So maybe they'll extend the time. Maybe they'll make the time shorter. I mean, that's also possible, a really short written response. Maybe they would think that would aid people who don't memorize. And 3 multiple choice tests. All right, well, I'll stay on the writing for a bit. I think the writing is one that is the most open to sort of subjectivity in marking. And by that I mean, you could sort of penalize the people who you think are just rote learners in that marking, in that writing test, in the marking of that writing test. So one thing I'm sort of telling my students to do is, to try and incorporate knowledge about current social issues into their writing. So yeah, you might want to be aware of that. The more you can learn about current culture and beyond your own monoculture, that could benefit you in a writing test, I think. Right, and we still have 3 multiple choice tests in reading skills, mathematical reasoning skills, thinking skills. All right, thinking skills seems to be the big one because that used to be general ability, which was very similar to an IQ test. So I can't really see it changing too much, but they've changed the name. I said in my comment in the Facebook group, that's classic bureaucracy, right? You give something a fancy name. Why don't they even go with cognition skills? Like really try and make it sound fancy. But yeah, now it's thinking. It sounds more difficult maybe than general ability, right? But should be pretty much the same thing because general ability is very similar to an IQ test, right? And thinking skills are, well, I'll link this to the second area, which worries me a little bit, mathematical reasoning skills. So I posted an article to the group yesterday, which basically said, maths is not important anymore. Logic is the important thing. It's a seemingly ridiculous statement because all logic is underpinned by maths. It's just that this person writing it doesn't realize it, right? They don't realize that every single action they take involves maths, like you're calculating probabilities, in everything you do, right? You're calculating opportunity cost. Should I do this or should I do that? Right, someone who doesn't have good mathematical reasoning skills will often be making the wrong choices, I think. You can even look at real world examples when you see someone who has, say, a low IQ. Right? And I'm very aware of how you have to be careful about how you talk about something like this. But you will, sometimes out of interest, and not saying you don't have empathy for these people, but you will sometimes observe them. They have trouble making what would be quite routine decisions for a person with an above average IQ, right? That's where the maths comes into it. I'm sure they're not able to process the information quickly enough, not able to decide what to do. So something like crossing the road could become quite dangerous for them. So if you were to say there was no maths in that, yeah, it's really bizarre. You're not going to be able to teach logic to people who have quite low IQs. I think you know you will certainly want to help them. Of course, you will want to help them, but yeah, you don't want to give them the ability to make big decisions because they don't have the skill set to be able to do so. But yeah, this whole idea that no, logic's completely separate from maths, very dangerous, I think. So I don't know, does this mean maths could move away from, say, numbers and geometry to some sort of weird, word problems? Because reasoning, and could they even eventually get rid of mathematical altogether and just have reasoning skills? That would be quite scary, I think, but certainly not impossible to think that that could happen. But someone who is smart will easily be able to figure out how to navigate that, how to still use reasoning skills. See, that's another skill you would learn. You meet someone, you realize what you need to get out of the conversation. You learn how to talk to them, right? Like I realize a lot of the things I say in this group, where people are for high achieving students and for high IQs and concepts like that. I can say some things here that I wouldn't be able to say in other contexts because people, they're against those ideas, and you can quickly become aware of it. I'm even starting to think maybe the department is against high IQ and against thinking and math skills. Right, so no marks taken off, multiple choice test mark. Yeah, I even think I was worried that they were going to move away from multiple choice. Well, not worried, but thinking of what a big change that would be. I actually think it would be good to scrap multiple choice. There probably are too many students out there who are guessing and getting lucky. You don't want that component of luck to be a determining factor in who gets, a potentially life-changing position in a selective school or an OC class. So I think eventually you would want to have all open-ended questions, free response questions like at the end of ICAS. So you have no hints to begin with, you're completely on your own. Okay, so preparing for the test. Yeah, they're saying the sample tests and quote will be provided so you can become familiar. But down the bottom, when they are available. So I'm going to be checking often. I'll let you know as soon as they are. I'll let you know my thoughts on it. But for the moment, the main thing I want to stress is that, many people in this group, in my group, are, always asking what book should I do, which place should I go to. Those questions are quickly becoming more and more redundant by the day. The thing you need, and the thing I tell my good students is, you don't even need to worry about this much, these changes, because I will tell you how you're going. You should be prepared for any sort of test, and you're still competing against the same cohort. So, my best students that I have at the moment, they could give them a completely new test, and as long as it's fair to everyone taking it, right, and there's not some nefarious agenda in play, they'll still be the top students, right? I have enough experience of dealing with these types of kids to see that, right? Like, but the problem is that I'm starting to see if they really want to get rid of some of those kids, because there's a sort of a truth to it that one boy I had last year, he got 59 out of 60 in GA, right, which is the thinking skills component, which is really, a very high score, obviously, and he got a full scholarship to a private school, so that he didn't even need to do the selective school test, right? But when you meet that student, yeah, he's very socially awkward, and he's not very empathetic of other people, so he's not a very likable person, you could say, right? But yeah, he has incredible processing power and memory capabilities. So, if they're going to take a set against that type of student, and say, oh, but he doesn't care enough about, helping society and so on, then they'll have to structure the tests completely differently. But, yeah, in terms of writing even, this student is able to construct, pieces well beyond what you would expect for his age. I mean, the actual truth here is that he's going to be a far better thinker uh, than most of the teachers he encounters. It's just a reality of life. You know, I think he's already figured that out. I think a lot of kids who get into selective and so on, they've already figured that out. You know, that many teachers are just quite pedestrian thinkers who, and it's not their fault at all, right? It's the system of equity. That's what's going to happen in all of society if you allow equity to reign supreme. You're going to have mediocre people getting into positions where you would have formerly had really superior people, because no one wants to say other people are superior anymore, so we have to say everyone is superior. Anyway, I won't go off on a digression on that subject. I just wanted to explain to you what I think I see going on here, and to just stress again to all of you, your main resource in leading up to this test, in my opinion, is going to be thinking skills and exposing your children to people, and that includes you as parents. You have to facilitate those thinking skills.